Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on X-Zone TV and Simul TV from our broadcast studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, bringing the latest evolutionary information from today's leading experts. This hour will explore past life, fact or fiction. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I was Cleopatra in a past life. It leaves one wondering just exactly how many Cleopatras there were. Is there really such a thing as past life? If so, is there more to it than meets the eye? Can we carry damage from past lives that impact our current life? Does past life regression really work? With us this hour to examine the mystery of past lives is a gentleman we've had on the program before, Von Braschler. Von is the author of several books on conscious development, ranging from time travel to visualization, energy healing, and thought power. His latest book is an ancient wisdom scroll entitled Past Lives. Vaughn is a former award-winning journalist and faculty member of the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies. You can find Vaughn on his Facebook page, facebook.com/vbraschler. Vaughn, thank you for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thank you, Gwilda. Good to be with you.
It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. Vaughn, how on earth did you first become interested in past lives?
How on earth, indeed. Yeah, on earth. Yeah, there's a good starting point. Well, I'm one of these odd people, I guess, that somehow was born with some memories of a past life. There are many of us who seem to remember a past life. A lot of people claim they do not. A lot of people probably have had inklings or flashback memories, and they've been suppressed because these are just considered not appropriate. It's not provable. But a lot of people seem to have this. Then we have the case of people who have intimate dreams, lucid dreams of past lives, and people who've had deja vu experience that might be considered past lives. People indeed who have gone and actually gone into regression, which would be, I guess, a kind of guided meditation. In my case, I just seem to remember past lives.
Amazing. So, for our purposes here, would you define past lives for us? I think there's a lot of confusion on the topic.
Oh, now this is why I wrote the ancient wisdom scroll, because there are different views on this, and I think they're all legitimate points to be argued and considered. There's different ways to evaluate what is a past life or past lives. Some people think that you might have been a crocodile in your past life, or that you might be a cow in your next life. Some people think that, in fact, this is your past life, and when you go to heaven, or when you go to paradise or nirvana, this will have been your past life. So for those people who think that they're going to go to the promised land and live with the heavenly host, that they too will have had a past life. This is it. There are people who believe that that we've all lived and experienced these things together as a collective consciousness. So there's all different views on past lives, and then there's a view of J. Krishnamurti, who said that reincarnation is an untrue fact. Take your choice.
That'll be confusing right there. An untrue fact.
Yeah.
What's meant by that exactly?
Well, this is my favorite, and I have to admit I am a fan of Krishnamurti. Who else would start a worldwide organization, a religion, if you will, and then disperse it and say you're on your own. Do your own thinking. It isn't me. Do your own thinking. And he said that it's an untrue fact. Now he lectured around the world to throngs of thousands of people, and he would take questions at the end of his presentation, and he would sometimes turn around and say, no, that's not the question you want to ask. This is the question you meant to ask. And finally, toward the end of his organization, before he dispersed the crowd to find their own way, he said, I'm often asked whether reincarnation is a true fact. I will say this: reincarnation is an untrue fact. And they said, what? He said, reincarnation is an untrue fact. He says, you're reincarnated every moment of your life. Now, I think this is the greatest takeaway, at least for me, that life is constantly changing, that the universe is filled with dynamic change, and change is constant, and we have to go with it, or we simply are no longer part of the picture. We atrophy. So you see, he was saying that your body will regenerate itself. That every 7 days your blood is new. Every month or so you have all new cells in your body, and that you're constantly changing. In fact, Gwilda, we're not the same two people as who started this conversation a few moments ago.
It seems like things are accelerating too. Some mornings I wake up and I go, "Who was I yesterday?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you bear a resemblance to that person. That person is you, and yet you are different.
Yeah. So there's a school of thought that, in fact, there's some proof that we didn't realize this for a while, but we actually can genetically take on damage from our ancestors. So that then that particular damage travels down the family line. Can that have anything to do with reincarnation? In that we're not necessarily living a past life, but we have access to a past life of one of our relatives.
Well, when you say relatives, I mean, I do believe in the concept of a group soul, but it might not be your biological mother or father or grandparents. And I think that you do inherit some genetic qualities from these people. There's a lot of research, and has been for years, about the so-called gray matter that all living creatures seem to inherit, and in memory of what, fire bad, snakes scary, that kind of thing. Um, but I think that on a deeper level, we're also soul creatures, or creatures of spirit, and in that sense, we've inherited from our group soul, or even the people that we live with now in a community, in this physical life. We inherit some group karma, which in fact will change our futures.
So the point I was trying to get at is, are we really, um, did we really exist in a persona in a past life, or is it memories being passed down, whether through the spiritual family or through the genetic line?
Well, if you're asking me, I mean, I think that we've all lived many, many lives in the past, and they might have been very similar. There's a tendency, it would seem, from the people who have regressed, or have had these documented cases of past life recall, that that in fact they do have some memory of having been, in my case, like a man several times. Very seldom does it cross over, but I mean, I remember being a woman once. And I think that moreover, we just come back to what's comfortable for us. I think you have to think of people as like, we're more than simply physical beings. We're spiritual beings, and we have a soul, and in the key part of us is our consciousness, which is our electromagnetic life force, if you will. And each one of us has this consciousness. It's universal. It's in all of life, and it is eternal. It is an intelligent consciousness, and it precedes us, and it supersedes us.
Do you think that that consciousness, once we cross over from one life, leave one lifetime, go back to source, come back to another lifetime,
Yeah.
do you think that consciousness remains the same, or do we get a different set of frequencies coming when we come back?
Well, early on, when I worked in the publishing end of things, I worked at Llewellyn with Dr. Michael Newton, and he wrote The Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls. And it was based on his years and years of clinical research and as a psychotherapist. And when he retired, he had all these odd cases, he called them. But there was a something that unified them. They all seemed to remember a life between life, and they all remembered getting together as a group. And the odd thing was that he talked about the cluster groups or the soul groups that one would reincarnate with, which would be approximately a dozen people, more or less, and that you would get together with them between lives, those of you who weren't currently incarnated in a physical body, and you would jointly discuss and review your past life in context of what were your goals and what were your primary missions, and then you would together with them self-program your next life. That was one of the takeaways of his book, Journey of Souls.
So if we start complaining about this life, we have nobody to blame but ourselves.
Well, that's it, and the concept of lords of karma kind of go out the window when you consider that it's just, the same dozen people that have always been your sisters and brothers and mothers and neighbors.
Oh,
And
so
you're
they don't change. They stay from lifetime to lifetime?
you reincarnate with this same group over and over and over. Now, you might not encounter them all, and if you do, you might not recognize them, but yeah, it's the same group, and you'll actually like play off each other. There's like almost like a committee approach to programming your life.
Pretty amazing. We're about out of time in this segment, but on the other side, I'd like to discuss how do we recognize our soul team when we bump
Hmm.
into them. Yeah, that's pretty interesting because if we have something
Yeah,
to do together, how can you tell who's who, right?
indeed.
Yeah. So we will have a quick uh, station turnaround here. And on the other side, we will be back. We'll return shortly. Don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing concepts of past lives is Von Braschler. You can find Von on his Facebook page, facebook.com/vbraschler. Von, we were going to talk about, you were mentioning there's soul groups that we reincarnate, maybe about 12 of us, again and again and again at the
Yeah.
same time, with a mission of sorts. How do you recognize these people? How do you know you're in the presence of a member of your soul group?
Well, it is kind of startling. I mean, I have actually recognized at least one, I would say two, maybe three of my group, and I think that's kind of highly unusual. But I think that given that we're all kind of doing what I'm doing here today, it kind of makes sense. And so we've been kind of out there, you know, not hidden, and when you meet one, you will know her, you will know him. In my case, I was entering a banquet hall. This goes back in the early '80s, and I'm walking into this busy banquet hall, and it's so noisy. All the people talking, nobody's seated. The wait staff is setting up the tables. That's noisy. There's an intercom system blaring music. That's noisy. You can't hear anything. All this noise. And suddenly I enter the room and everything stops. I mean, the noise stops. It goes dim. And I hear only one voice across the hall. And it's a woman whose back is to me and she's facing someone who's in the corner. And I started walking toward her and I'm still hearing her. And as I got within, 25, 20 feet, she swivels around. She said, "What? Why are you shouting at me?" And I said, "I was not shouting at you. I was not." And so we said, "Oh, this is very strange indeed." So we started hanging out together, and I was telling her like, "Oh, I have strange dreams. I have strange dreams. I used to be a farmer and a poet in Wales in the 17th century, and I would take my team into town and sell my goods, and I'd work the farm and I'd write poetry on the side. And one day there was a terrible storm, and I went out to save what bit of the crop I could before the storm took it all. And I went out there, and there was a big flash, and that's all I remember. And she said, "Oh, I could fill it in." She said, "After you were struck by lightning, I had to deal with your horrible mother, and she treated me very badly too." And yeah, and she knew the story of our lives as well, better than I did. She could fill it in. It's like, so we actually said, "Oh my God, this is incredible. We built a life together." So we went before a group of people from the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and they did what's called a quartz um, chakra reading, where you stand in front of a committee of people behind a table, and they read your chakras. And reading your what they called the rose chakra, they could tell you your past. And we did it together, and they said, "You want us to read you simultaneously?" We said yes. And they said, "Why?" And I said, "I think we've lived a life together." And then they started all to laugh. There were like five of them. I said, we said, "What's funny?" She said, and the leader said, "Oh, you've lived many lives together." So yeah, we remember some of them and we don't remember others, and it's probably good that most people are born with this lack of memory, because it would be painful to bring back all of the baggage, the emotional baggage from a past life, because all of our lives here on earth, of course, end in death, separation, sadness. You lose people, and there's unfulfilled dreams. So all of that, you come back to that and you say, "Oh my gosh," But yeah, I think go ahead.
Have there been any studies? I mean, I've heard about how people have had what they thought was a past life
Yeah,
and documented what they were aware of about it,
yeah,
and then been able to go back in history and find different people that was
yeah.
in there, or different situations or different happenings. Have
Mm,
you researched that at all? How common
yeah,
is
There
that?
are there are there are some excellent case studies of serious researchers. The best is probably by the Canadian Ian Stevenson, and it's called Children. I think it's called Children to Remember Previous Lives, and it's all children. And the interesting thing about doing research with children is, they haven't had time to queue up, and study and been socialized into one thing or another. They just remember what they remember. Like when I was 5 years old, I went to school. The things I told them about my previous life like made their heads spin, and they thought I was a terrible liar and I should go home and tell my mother what I did. But it's like, oh no, this is the way kids are. I mean, a lot of kids are born with memory, and Stevenson found a whole lot of them, and that's considered like the gold standard, the Stevenson book. There's also Tom Rucker, Tom Schroeder's book, Old Souls. These are excellent studies.
So
Oh,
how
go
what
ahead.
what advice would you give to a parent? Because I can remember my son in particular relating this long dissertation of what he used to be or do.
Yeah,
And of course, as a parent, you just think their little imagination is going wild. How
yeah.
can a parent recognize when they're actually speaking of a life? How can they not invalidate it and yet still prepare them for the world that will?
I can only tell you my own personal experience with my own son. When he was young, we were washing the car one day. I remember it very distinctly. He was very little. And he said, "You don't remember when I was your father, do you?" I said, "What?" He says, "Neither does my daughter." I said, "Who's your daughter?" He said, "My mother." I said, "You mean I married my sister?" He said, "Well, yes, but it's okay." Which explains a lot of why we squabbled, I suppose, brothers and sisters. Yeah, yeah, with an odd thing. But I think you run into people from your cluster group or people you've known in a past life, and yeah, there's a lot of unresolved drama from the past. But your cluster group, according to Dr. Newton, is a group that supports you, and they have essentially the same approach you do. It's kind of like you have the same modus operandi. That's the case with my friend and the other two that I met from my group. Is
So
that we're
when
Go ahead.
so when you come back in a group, a lot of people are of the mind that we just keep coming back till we learn our lessons.
Yeah,
Other people are of the mind that we come because we have a particular goal in mind, a particular thing to achieve,
yeah,
to better the world or whatever.
yeah.
So what's your take on those?
Both of the above. I mean, you do have a mission. You're programmed. You're self-programmed. Let's face it, and you're self-programmed, and you're motivated. But you come back and you forgot. You forget so much. We forget so much when we're born. In fact, Plato wrote a theory of recollection, because so many people are born with no memory, but a few people are. These are the people that suddenly can speak another language at birth, or they can play the piano, or they know, in my case, poems that were written hundreds of years ago, and they just know this, and it's like, how do you know it? It's like, well, there's nothing in my physical memory bank, so therefore it must be from beyond this physical life that I've recorded this information.
So
So,
tell me about the poetry that you remembered.
well, it would be metaphysical, not terribly good. Also thought I was an artist. I was probably a better farmer than than I was a poet. But we're drawn to these lives, and this is good and this is bad. It's like you can't continue to live these lives. I mean, none of the lives that I remember were exciting like Cleopatra or Napoleon. Maybe we all share some consciousness with these, as Carl Jung said in his theory of the collective unconscious, that we, in a sense, all were um, Marie Antoinette. Maybe we all were, because no, we weren't all physically her, but we shared the consciousness of her, or we do now.
And there's also another whole rabbit hole about archetypal representations,
Yeah,
that we align with a frequency through the archetype. Does that
yeah.
play in here?
I think so. I think so, and I think a lot of these theories are really really probably pretty. I won't say spot on, but in the right direction. Like you have, like, everyone's born under a birth sign, right? And
Mhm.
everybody is born with a number, right, numerologically. Moreover, people are born by a certain ray. The seven ray theory, that there's energy that drives us forth. And I think that these things probably will not significantly change from lifetime to lifetime, because this is your signature. This is who you are. I may be dead wrong about this, but I think that we keep coming back and trying to hit the mark, like the understudy for Othello. We're always ready to go, but we're not quite up to speed yet.
So do in your opinion, obviously, do people come back under the same sign, the same astrological sign, or do they
I
try different ones out?
I know that astrologically, a lot of astrologers would say that you live, what is it, seven lifetimes in all 12 signs, and you get a 72. I don't know. I think that you tend to come back very much the same as you were. Whether you're always an air sign or always a water sign, that's probably more the case. If we're self-programmed, it seems to me that you're going to try to select a body that would be born relatively, maybe not the same astrological sign, but the same basics, air sign or water sign, your same element sign, because you'll have an orientation that way.
So you just brought up another interesting rabbit hole, and that is the coming back in these signs, or basically the elementals.
Yeah.
Um, how do we manage to get back all at the same time? And we're just about out of time in this segment, but
Oh.
do we get together and choose a body at the right time together and then go in, or
Well, according to the people that Michael Newton regressed, and he said go back as far as you can. He thought maybe they'd go back to age 3 and remember
Mhm.
a temper tantrum, or falling on the floor, and they went back to before they were born. They would not always come back at the same time, but they would a lot of people in your soul cluster group would choose to come back at the same time and maybe at the same place,
Hmm,
because
amazing.
you have good working relationship. I have somebody like that, and I call her my twin flame, you know.
Well, it is that magic moment. We're going to need to take another station break. Vaughn and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Our guest this hour is Vaughn Braschler. You can find Vaughn on his Facebook page, facebook.com/the Braschler. Vaughn, we were just getting into how the soul group comes back at the same time, but there was another interesting aspect about this, and that was choosing a body. You mentioned choosing a body to
Choosing a
incarnate
body.
to.
Yeah.
Now, do we just kind of float around and find the genetics that best line up with what we want to do this time? How does that work?
Well, I think everyone makes their own choices, and obviously there are compromises because there are many variables. I can tell you that my neighbor's cat used to be my cat, used to be my best friend's cat. It's the same cat. And the reason I think this is because it knows where all the good toys are. It knows how to get it into the house through the cat door. It didn't have to be told any of these things. It has the same mannerisms, the same quirks. It carries its body the same way. Um, Answers to the old names. And I think that a lot of people have that experience with a dog or a cat. And if it's true of a dog or a cat, why not with a person? So I think that we yeah, I think so.
I've also heard the theory that dogs and cats have like a soul, or a common soul group by species that they
Yeah.
can glean information from. That would be a little different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that is kind of an ancient concept. I don't believe in it. I think that they're exactly like us. I think that they do belong to a group soul, but I think we also belong to a group soul. In fact, I think there's only one group soul, and we all belong to that one group soul. I think that, moreover, that according to the stories that Dr. Newton said, people remember their life between lives as being a fleck of light, and you'll hang out with your dozen people or however many are between lives, and you'll be sitting there like flecks of light, but you identify each other because you know who you are, and we're all like sparks of one great eternal flame. Now I didn't just come up with that. I mean, this is Gnostic. This is in a lot of our religions. The concept that all creation is light. We're light, and we're part of the light.
So, um, let's talk a little bit about regression. I think that's pretty
Mm,
fascinating.
mm.
What exactly is past life regression? How's it done?
Yeah, past life regression is usually done with a psychotherapist or psychologist who will take you back to an earlier time, and it would be earlier than your birth moment in this physical life, and you would do this through basically um, guided meditation, and it could be done as a group too. I've been through group meditations. It's kind of a problem. It's a very personal journey. So the idea is that you're going to regress somebody and take them back through meditation or hypnosis, if you will, to an earlier life, and that you will remember. So this is really, if it's not hypnosis, if it is hypnosis, it's deep hypnosis. If it's meditation, it's deep meditation, because you're completely putting the physical body and mind to sleep, and you're asking the internal spirit to remember everything. And the internal spirit, of course, is eternal. It is pure energy. It is conscious energy, and it does remember, and it knows all.
So, when you're in this process, does the person then retain the experience of the regression?
Yeah. I mean, because you're quite aware. It would be similar to a lucid dream. Another approach to do this is through lucid dreaming, in fact. If those people joining us today who have experienced a lucid dream, they're very vivid and they're very impactful, meaningful, and they're memorable. And you definitely remember a lucid dream. And so it is with past life regression. You just remember it.
In dreams, we have some of it is literal, maybe, but a lot of it is metaphorical in nature. Does that relate to past life recall?
Well, there are different kinds of dreams, of course. Now, the common dream is kind of, lending itself more to, a metaphorical experience where you're playing all of the parts, and you're doing it out of your memory, out of your physical, mental, mind memory, and you're reliving what you know and think to be true, and then you're analyzing it as you play the tapes, the recordings, and these kind of common dreams are usually analytical dreams. They're dreams out of your physical brain or memory.
So,
uh,
like a form of processing.
processing. These are the dreams where you run but you can't get anywhere, or you're naked and you go into the dining room. Those kind of dreams, fun dreams. And they're usually dreams, where you are trying to process questions you can't resolve during your more wakeful moments. Well, unfortunately, you're having a dream where you're half asleep and half awake. And this is the way most people dream. And these are very common dreams. But a lucid dream is something quite different. And I'm working on a book now, Programming Lucid Dreams, where people can actually try to program a more meaningful, impactful dream that would be beyond this. It would be an out of body journey of the soul.
So, given that, could
Mhm.
they use that to access past lives without being
Yes.
put under
Yeah.
hypnosis and stuff?
Absolutely. And I think this is a very legitimate use of dream work, which is an ancient a way of self discovery. Dream work, it goes all the way back to Egypt and earlier. And this is lucid dreaming is a very good way to self regress yourself. You could also self regress yourself in meditation, and just lying on your sofa or in a perfect lotus position, which we would call meditation.
Is there a problem with uh, when we access these past life memories? Some of it can be traumatic.
Mhm.
There probably is a bit of an identity crisis that goes along
Mm.
with it sometimes.
Mhm.
So, is it advisable to do it yourself, or would it be better to be with a professional?
Personally, I would prefer for myself to do it all by myself, because I think the processing after the experience is got to be very subjective. I really don't want someone telling me that you know which archetype I'm exhibiting. I really don't need the psychology that's going to come with it. It's a very personal experience. um, we are our best dream interpreters because they're very, very personal experiences.
Yes, and would you same thing with past lives then? Yes.
Same thing with past lives. So what it's very much like in a lucid dream. Well, however you get there to experience and relive and go to the past life to relive it, past life recall is very personal, very impactful, and it has great meaning to you, no one else.
Does the we get bumps and bruises in every life, but does extreme damage follow us from life to life? In other words, if we were
Yeah.
extremely traumatized in one life, does that trauma follow to the next?
Yeah, and you were talking before about, things that we bring forward with us, I think that there are, just as when you have, let's say you're in an auto accident, years later, you seem to have recovered, but there's there's what's called body memory, and where every cell in your body seems to be triggered by certain things that recreate the event, and the body has a memory of it, and it carries itself with this memory, which can be psychologically difficult, and 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 I think that we do bring with us some memory, which we carry like bricks in a backpack with us.
Well, if it's body memory, though, we leave that body, it becomes ash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We go
I
into
know,
spirit,
I
we
know.
come back. So how's it carried forward?
Okay, okay, good point. Now, okay, so I saw this one coming, Gwilda. Now, there are subtle energy bodies which basically extend from the core of your physical dense body outward. Thinking of the Eastern spiritual model. So there's your emotional body, your mental body, your causal body, your buddhic body, your soul body, your atma. All of these subtle energy bodies are invisible and non-physical, and they all impact the physical body. So what I'm saying is, there is a conscious memory when the spirit comes forward into a new life, and that conscious memory comes with you in your spirit, and your consciousness exists on all chakra levels, on all subtle body levels. So your emotional body, your mental body, your causal body, your spirit, but all of these bodies, including your physical body, have a consciousness and a conscious memory, and that's as a result of your eternal spirit coming forward into and dwelling inside of us in this physical life.
So when we incarnate, when we pick that body and incarnate,
Yeah,
do we
yeah.
bring that etheric body with us?
Yes, that etheric body is your energetic blueprint, your double. It is a silhouette of your physical body.
So that's going to change the characteristics of the little baby body, the physical one,
Yeah.
slightly because they have to get along, right? They have to attune to each other.
Absolutely. So this is a really important point, and for people that really want to get into meditation, they really need to think about this somewhat. There needs to be some holistic harmony within your total being. That is to say that your mind, your body, your inner spirit need to be in sync with each other, or there's going to be inner conflict.
Interesting. Well, it's again that magic moment. We're going to take another station break. Please stay with us as Vaughn and I continue to explore past lives and reincarnation. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. This hour, our special guest is Vaughn Braschler. You can find Vaughn on his Facebook page, facebook.com/vbraschler. Vaughn, we were talking about how when the spirit incarnates into the body, the spirit actually brings the ethereal bodies to the physical body.
Yeah.
So, would the physical body then end up being quite different if a different spirit was the one to incarnate?
Ooh, I suppose so. I always think of the physical body we select. It's as you're looking at all the possibilities. You say, well, I want to live in wherever I want to live. Let's say I want to live in Windsor, good place to live. Okay, so then I say, well, okay, so I want to live on this street. Okay, and I want to live, by a certain grove of trees, and and you get very specific, and I want to live with a family that's musical, and pretty soon, you can just, this is probably explains why some people reincarnate so infrequently, and some people just like cop in all the time. There are people that actually remember having been in like World War II, and in a few years later they're here again. And some people, their last memory was the Trojan War. It's like, I mean, it is, so we don't all apparently come back as frequently as a group. There's a variation. So I think some people are very picky where they go, and you tend to pick a body that's going to work for you, and it's a selection process. But I think that when you bring your etheric body with you, your soul body, your this consciousness is going to have some bearing on how that body looks. You know
And how it develops and that
how
sort
it
of thing.
how it develops. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, because
Mhm.
there's that imprint,
It's that
So
it's that imprint. Yeah,
it's a bit of a marriage.
that's
So
it.
this
Mhm.
brings up another interesting question: is we're talking as if past life follows the timeline that we're here in this reality.
Yeah.
Does past life actually could it jump to future?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
What's that look like?
So, I mean, w- there really is no past or future in the greater scheme of things. There's only how we tend to measure time now here, which is a convenience for us. There are many possibilities, including parallel lives, including um, incarnating on another world. Yeah, it's very likely. I mean, there have been a lot of people that seem to remember having lived in another world. Um,
As in on another planet?
yeah, like yeah, Venus or Mars or something. I mean, it's a dead planet now, but somebody probably lived there once. It might have been us, and yeah,
So
absolutely.
so then this leads us to wonder if we reincarnate on different planets, do we reincarnate in totally different forms? I mean, could we be in totally energy form on one planet and a more physical form on another? Any clues
Aha,
there?
aha. This is how I see the future, but this is only through my little squinty eyes. I think that even if this world were blown up, sadly, with all the craziness that's ensuing now, that we would still live, but we might not live here. You see, we're going to live somewhere, and this is just a very nice place to live. But our spirit is eternal, and our life goes on and on and on through many lifetimes, and there will always be an us, and there will always be a place for us. We'll be adaptable.
Well, there's, quite a few people in this day and age, and I don't know if it's because everybody's seeing the doomsday
Mhm.
and would like to believe otherwise. But a lot of people are starting to say, well, I'm from the Pal- Pallades, or,
Pleiades, yeah.
yeah, and I came with a group from the Pallades,
Yeah.
you know, um, and they're being drawn together with this premise. Is that what's playing out here?
Well, I mean, in some cases, it might be truthful. In some people, they might be just like playing a game. I don't know. I've met a lot of people that they're absolutely convinced they're vampires. I'm pretty sure they're not. So I think people do get imaginative. You know, and I don't know. I think it's entirely possible that we reincarnate from group as a group from various places. You know, I'm a theosophist, and I know that our one of our founders, Helena Blavatsky, believed apparently in the premise that many of us have lived on other planets and come here as a group. And I'm not saying that we're aliens or anything. I think we're people. And this is okay. We might have had a different structure physically, in previous lives, but I think that's true of all of us. It's interesting that people in the West tend to think that the concept of reincarnation, by and large, as accepted by us today in the West, came from India. But in fact, in India, as I understand it, might be wrong, there's only one primary sect in India that believes in reincarnation as we do. The others tend to believe in transmigration of the soul. which which is that you might have been a crocodile, or
That was going to be my next question. Is it always human?
you might have been a cow, you might have been a cobra, you know. Um, but the let's see the Krishnas believe that if you were you're a person now, you were a person then, you'll be a person next time. And I think in most cases that's absolutely true. Because if you were a cow, it would be more comfortable for you to reincarnate again as a cow. If
Well,
you
it
were
depends on what the butchering was like, but I
well,
get your point.
that's true. You say, well, I know how to be a cow, you know. And if you were a person, you say, well, I think I kind of would, you know, I'm comfortable being a person. I don't know that I want to be a cobra, but you know, I think it's possible.
So if we're going to change gears here a little bit, how does spirit walking, dream walking, and vision quests relate to past lives?
Yeah. So I think that in the vision quest and in spirit walking, you know, you can explore the past and the future. And in doing that, in walking into the past and the future, you might just discover yourself there. I think this is a very interesting thing about spirit walking or out of body travel, if you will, you know. And in the shamanic world, you know, they're very good at this. They're very good at going into a deep trance, leaving the body, going to the past, exploring the past, their past specifically, going into the future, their future specifically, seeing what the future holds. I think this is a very uh, global approach to what we see happening, say in among the mystics in India and in the East, in Buddhism and in Hindu religion, where they go into a deep meditation. The same basic premise is to leave the body and explore the past, the future, and find yourself always looking for yourself. The great goal in all of these quests is to find yourself and to try to get a thread of who you are, grab a hold of that thread and discover why you're here and how you fit in the grand scheme of things and what you should be doing with your life.
So a lot of the indigenous peoples are really big on the ancestors.
Yeah.
In this case, are we our own ancestors that we're looking for?
Sure.
I'll go with that.
Sure. Sure. You know, you
Yeah.
say like, well, I was my own grandfather. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, all, you know, I think that we're all the time, in fact, visited by voices of the past and from the future that are checking in on us. There is no time or space in the spirit realm. You know, when the shaman steps out into dream walking or the mystic steps out in meditation, or you leave the body in regression or lucid dreaming, you are in fact exploring infinite possibilities.
Mm, amazing. Vaughn, it's about that time in the program where I have to ask you, what's your mission?
My mission
Your
is,
mission.
is to be here talking to people. It's been very made me very yes. My twin flame said now is the time to talk. So I mean, for a long time, you know, I worked in the publishing business, facilitating all of these wonderful books, and then I thought, well, you know what? It's just time to tell my own story. And I can only tell my own story. I am not clever like Ian Stevenson. I haven't interviewed all these children. I can only tell my own story. And if it resonates with people, that's why I tell it. So I'm glad to be with you.
We're glad to have you. So tell me, what can be learned or gained from playing around with our past lives that can be practical and help us now?
Exactly. I think it's very important to discover who you were and who you should be, speaking of past and future, because I think that your life mission, your destiny of your soul, as Newton would say, is the most important thing of all. We don't come here just to have some good experience, hear some good music, and grow some beautiful flowers. We are here for obviously to accomplish something, and we've almost every one of us forgotten it, what it is, and it's important because this goal never changes. This mission never ends. It's like a carousel that the music stops and you simply get on another horse and ride again. And we must discover who we are and why we're here.
And you feel that the mysteries of that is held within our past life recall.
I do. I do. Very much so.
Pretty fascinating. Well, unfortunately, it's about the end of our time together, Vaughn. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Our guest this hour has been former award-winning journalist and faculty member of the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies, Von Braschler. His latest book is an ancient wisdom scroll entitled Past Lives. You can find Vaughn on his Facebook page, facebook.com/vbraschler. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. And please be sure to join us right here next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our evolving world.